for those who are working in IT, to really have that work-life balance, to be empowered, to keep that inner spiritual stability is very, very important. It's not just important to those individuals, but it's important to all of us, actually, because we're all working together and we all affect one another in everything that we do. And I really love this concept that the world is truly interconnected. You probably know about something called chaos theory, which says that if a butterfly flaps its wings in China, there's a hurricane in South America. So in other words, everything's connected. So even one little act in one part of the world affects the whole system, affects the whole world. And so I'm very honored to be able to be with you all and to be able to share with you all. And this whole theme of having stability and being stable in, excuse me, an unstable world. Well, I don't think there could be a more relevant topic for today. I think we all like change. I know I like change. I like challenge. But when change becomes more and more frequent and it begins to actually impact or threaten my peace of mind, begins to threaten my well-being, begins to threaten maybe the well-being of society and the world, then that change leads to a lot of inner insecurity. And so there's something about adapting to change, understanding change. There's something about being able to embrace change so that the changes that are happening actually enable me to move forward. I think one of the greatest challenges, as has been mentioned, is of course the environment. And I was at COP26 in Glasgow just a few weeks ago, seems a long time ago now. And of course, I think we all know that our governments are not doing nearly enough. And yes, amongst the NGOs, the non-governmental players, a lot of things happening and a lot of effort being put in. To help people, one is to, of course, adapt to the changes, environmental changes, and these changes are huge. Lifestyle changes are huge, but to also be able to develop that inner resilience to be able to cope with change. And yet on the government level, there seems to be a kind of disconnect between what is really needed and the decisions that are being taken. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about all of that. It would take a long time. But there is something now, a recognized syndrome called climate anxiety. And especially amongst young people, this is a very real thing. Young people, and I totally get it, you know, what's the future? Seeing the future, a lot of anxiety. It's difficult to see a future. And I know the forum that was mentioned at one of these forums, somebody said two things I remember, well, many things, of course, but in this context, you know, we can't say future generations. We're here now. It's the now generation. We are all here together. The other thing that was said, and of course we talk about sustainability, this person said, if I were to say that my marriage is sustainable, what kind of marriage would it be? You want something more. We want human flourishing. And so that's where we need the inner work, because as we do that inner work individually, collectively, it has a huge impact on our world. And of course, COVID, such a massive change that we've all been through over the last about 2 years now, over 2 years. And I know India has been through so much. And I just know how resilient all of you are. It's just amazing. When a disaster strikes in countries like India, the impact is not as huge as it would be on people who are so dependent upon material facilities. And so the resilience, I've seen it for myself. I've visited India. I can't even count now. I've been coming to India for well over 40 years, mostly twice a year, sometimes even more. And so India is very much in my heart, part of my heart. Or let me say part of my heart is in India. So I'm waiting to come back again. But the resilience of the people is just amazing, just amazing. But still more to do, isn't there? More to come. And, you know, on a day-to-day level, the people we deal with, the volatile personalities, you know, sometimes somebody is quite calm and okay with me one day, and the next day they can be insulting me and they can be angry. And you think, what's going on? And it's not so easy not to get impacted and influenced and to get personally hurt by the things that people say and do around us. And this is our day-to-day experience. I don't think any of us live in a perfect society or a perfect community. And I live, of course, in the Brahma Kumaris community, and we have, of course, everyone making spiritual endeavor, but still everybody has their personalities. And so we all face these challenges day to day. And so to move through all of that, we need an anchor. I feel I need an anchor inside that's going to stabilize me. And I love this concept of an anchor, because it's like an anchor keeps you, if you think about a boat, an anchor dropped from a boat keeps the boat moored in one place. So the boat can't drift off into places of danger. So of course, it's an analogy for what's happening internally in our consciousness, and particularly in our minds. So an anchor prevents my mind from drifting off into thoughts, and then accompanied with that, feelings that then cause me even more upheaval and sorrow inside. It keeps my mind, an anchor will keep my mind stable. It keeps the boat close to the shore where there is safety. And also, you know, what does it mean by safety? When I think about life as an ocean, and I think about I, the being in this body, a human being, as the boat, I say to myself, well, the boat, it's very important that the boat is in the water, but the water shouldn't come into the boat. So what happens when the water comes into the boat? The boat sinks. So let me be in the water of life, navigating my way, but let me not be so overpowered by all the influences around me, so that literally I begin to sink inside. I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of unhappiness or negativity or anger, or whatever are the negative experiences that come to me, that arise in me. And so, yes, we need anchors. And I was thinking, yes, anchors in plural. We don't just need one anchor. I think we need more than one anchor. And there were three anchors in particular that really came to me and I know are meaningful in my life. And so one is understanding. Second, acceptance. And the third, compassion. And I'll explain why these three and what they're about. And of course, understanding, very, very important. I need to understand what's happening around me and to understand the people around me. And of course, to do that, I first of all need to understand myself. And I know many of you have been involved in some of the Raj Yoga teachings and have heard many things. And so you'll be aware that, yes, when we say the self and we ask the question, who am I? The understanding is not just of all the labels that we carry, you know, our gender and our nationality and our society status and profession, all of that. I think by now, probably most of you attending these sessions would know that these are labels that we carry, but they're not really us. And they don't define us, and they mustn't define us. But when I say self-understanding, it's understanding the being within, who I truly am, I, the soul, the consciousness. And of course, there are many layers to that consciousness. And on the very external level, yes, consciousness is only of the labels. And, you know, where somebody is very caught up in their label, or even one particular label, then if anybody threatens that, they can get very angry and very defensive. And I remember once in one of our talks, one of our elder sisters, one of our daddies had come here to the UK. And it was in a talk and somebody asked her daddy, what would you do if somebody stood up in front of others or in front of many others, accused you of something? What would you say? What would you do? And she said, well, if really I'd done something wrong, I'd apologize. If I hadn't done anything wrong, I'd just ignore it. And that answer really touched me. I said, that's an answer of real self-respect. That's an answer of real dignity. Because when somebody insults you, actually, they usually insult the label, don't they? You know, oh, you're no good at this, you're no good at that, you made that stupid decision, why did you do that? I think we've all heard those sorts of accusations in our lives more than once. And so we're being attacked in a way for something that's very external. And so at that moment, I could see, I understood that if I hold on to my real identity, that real deeper self-understanding, I can stay with that dignity. I don't have to take in the sorrow or the insult. Now, we can look at it in terms of ego, if you like, you know, taking in that the ego gets insulted. I can't be insulted, but my ego can. So, no ego, that would be good, wouldn't it? Again, I remember another one of our elder sisters defining ego, and she said, ego means E-go. I thought that was good. Not that easy, but it's possible when I have that deeper understanding of myself. And so when I go beneath the surface of the mind of all the whys and whats and wherefores, and I go deeper inside into that awareness of I, the soul, the being, I really can emerge my inner goodness, the love, the peace, the purity, the wisdom that we all carry inside. And this is who I am, actually. Now, that's a very different identity to saying, you know, I'm the IT professional, or even I am the Raj Yoga teacher, or I am, I don't know, the doctor, the lawyer, whatever it is. Just being in my true self gives me back so much dignity. And I remember an experience I had being with, working in office with someone, and she was not very nice towards me, and it used to really affect me. And I used to go in the morning and I'd say good morning, and she'd turn her face in the other direction. And the thing is, I would carry on being nice to her, more and more nice to her, and she would carry on. What was the result? She'd be more and more horrible towards me. And one day she said to me, "You never give up, do you?" And you know, one day, it was amazing. I was sitting at my desk. I looked across the room. She was sitting, writing, head down. And it was like internally, I asked her a question. What do I want from you? What can you give me? And then I answered myself, nothing. I have everything inside. Why am I begging? And suddenly, literally, I saw myself like a beggar, begging for her self-respect, begging for her love. And I said, why do I need to do this? And honestly, that moment freed me. And many things began to change in my life. But certainly my relationship with this person changed a lot. And I stopped taking in the sorrow, because in that moment, I again started to respect myself. I again had my own inner dignity back. And I remembered who I truly am. And so because of that self-respect, she began to respect me. Very, very different. And I learned whatever we give out comes back to us. It's like an echo, isn't it? If I really don't recognize the goodness within, and I stay stable in that anchor of my self-understanding, how on earth are others going to respect me? It's just not possible. And something in one of our teachings, which I've never forgotten, it said, you know, it talked about violence, and it was about how the first violence that we do is to ourselves, the violence of suppressing our own inner goodness, the violence of suppressing our real selves. And so then, of course, everything else comes from that. So if I'm not living in my inner goodness, my true identity, somebody insults me, I get angry, this is mine, this is yours. Well, you can see, you extrapolate it and it comes to war. What's war about? Yours and mine and territory and, well, so many things. Not understanding the other, not accepting the self. So understanding is so key. And when I have that self-understanding, I begin to understand others. And I begin to be able to also put myself in their shoes sometimes. So when somebody is angry towards me or unhappy around me, now I think to myself, what is happening for them? What is making them unhappy? Instead of taking it as an insult and that now I have to retaliate, how can I help them to feel better? So the response is not anger, the response is love. The response comes from the being within. And that love is so transformative. When somebody throws stones at you, offer them flowers. In other words, be loving in your approach. And again, a story when somebody was very angry at me about something, and I just said, okay, you don't need to speak to me like that. I have love for you. Oh, they were angry. And I thought about what they said, and I thought, okay, one thing is true, I need to change. Two things, it's their things and it's to do with them. But I kept my dignity. And the next day, they apologized to me. I'm so sorry. How could I speak to you like that? And I said, don't worry. We've known each other a long time. Let's forget it. And so because I responded with love, everything was fine. The relationship didn't get disturbed. And love really does the magic, the love from within. Not the love that wants love in return, the love that is truly giving. And so understanding really helps us to move through life, understanding ourselves, understanding others. And that leads very quickly to our other anchor, which is the anchor of acceptance. And I found this so, so helpful when things happen to you. And I've had a recent happening, a fall and various things. But because I've been able to accept it, I've been able to move through it minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. I've accepted the situation, which has made a difference to me at the moment, but still I'm very happy to be here with all of you. I've accepted the situation. And so that means that I can keep myself happy and peaceful on the inside. And so there's a big difference when something happens to you and then you become miserable. Everybody becomes miserable. So what's the benefit? Something happens to you, you stay cheerful, you accept, and then others around you also feel happy. And that helps the healing process, whether it's physically or emotionally or mentally. And today people are going through a lot of emotional upheaval. We know that mental illness is hugely increasing in the world. And so I need a lot of emotional stability myself. And it's this anchor of acceptance, acceptance of what I can and can't do physically, but yet I would say in terms of what I can or can't do spiritually, in terms of how I can give to others, support others, encourage others, there's no limit to that, because there's no limit to those beautiful qualities within the soul, the being. There's no limit to my inner goodness. It's absolutely pure, absolutely available anytime. But yes, I may be limited in what I can do, and COVID is limiting us at the moment, but I accept and I can carry on. And so accepting the situation, and I can begin to keep mental stability, because then my mind is free. It's not occupied with questions. Why is this happening? When will it finish? What's going to happen next? These questions cause a lot of instability inside. So when I free myself from these questions, I can then say, okay, how can I use my mind more creatively? I have a lovely example of somebody who's actually a civil engineer and who was working in the IT field as well in relation to that. And he'd been living here in the UK for a while. Then, because of health issues, he had to go back to India, to South India, actually. And During lockdown, of course, he wasn't working, he was recuperating. And so he decided to retrain. And he's now got his City and Guilds certificate as a chef. Well, not as a chef, as a baker and pastry maker. And he's come back to the UK for a visit for a few months. We're all benefiting. He's become a master pastry maker. And Shivani may know who I'm talking about, I don't know. But amazing. And there's positivity for you. Health issues, COVID issues. It could be lots of reasons for instability. And yet he's used his mind well and creatively. So there's always opportunity if we keep stable. And I think many of you will know that in Chinese, the letter, Chinese characters, words like whole character means a word, and the character for crisis in another context also means opportunity. So acceptance enables me to turn a crisis around into an opportunity. And then, yes, our third anchor of compassion. And why I feel this is an anchor, because this is a quality which is born out of our inner love. It's a quality of giving. It's a quality that enables us, I feel, to have some meaning and purpose in life. And so it's fine being, meditating, being aware of my inner goodness and of, enjoying my inner being, but we live in life, we live in society. How do I interact? And I feel this concept or this awareness of compassion makes that connection between the goodness going on inside and the impact that that goodness can have, not just on my family, my workplace, the people around me, but on the world. And we're in a very unkind world, and the world needs kindness and compassion right now. And so let us think about this. What does compassion mean? It doesn't mean that, I used to think myself that it meant taking in everybody's sorrow and suffering and feeling the same as that person. Now I understand it doesn't quite mean that. It means deep understanding and respect for what a person is going through. And until you've been through something yourself, how can you really understand? So that's why I say respect. You can't say to someone, oh, why are you worrying so much about this? Or you're not in their shoes, right? So compassion means understanding, respecting where the person is at. And then that thought, what can I do? What can I give to help make this situation better? And yes, sometimes physically there's something I need to give to support. But more than anything, at this point in time, people need to be shown kindness and love, and need to have their dignity upheld. And so if somebody's made a mistake, for example, it's not that I then criticize them and I feel good because they've made the mistake and I'm better than them. That's not compassion. That's sheer ego. And I'm giving a lot of sorrow. Someone's made a mistake. I show understanding. I show compassion. I say, okay, let's look at this. How can we put this right? Don't feel bad about it. How can we feel better about it? What can we do? Then the person feels encouraged. And then actually everybody's helped, because with that, there's the clarity of how to move forward. What is the next step to take? I'm not thinking of my selfish needs. Compassion means thinking about the greater good of all. And when we work in this way, it gives us, as I said, a lot of meaning and a lot of purpose in life, because I'm now working truly from my inner goodness. And anchor, and for me, I know compassion very much, more and more I feel is becoming an anchor in my life. And it really, really helps me to feel that I'm making a valuable contribution to society. And so let me always endeavor to show that kindness and compassion, but also what happens then is, because there's a loving rapport through that, a loving relationship, if there is a need to help someone to see how they can do something better, what it is that they need to change in themselves, then by having that loving relationship, you're able to tell them and help them and support them so that they too can begin to change. So compassion is actually a very active form of love that enables change to happen. And I just give you, and as I said, it upholds dignity. I just give you one little story of that, and then it'll be time for our meditation. It was during the Buj earthquake, now many years ago, and I was in Mount Abu at that time, and our brothers and sisters were going to the affected area, and they were, of course, giving first of all, supplies. I mean, you don't go to an earthquake zone and then say, I'll meditate for you. People have very real physical needs, so giving them supplies and food. And it was, but not just here's a plate of food, but here's a stove, here's something you can cook with, here's, because here are people who the day before had everything, and the next day they have to ask for a plate of food. Amazing. Very, very difficult. And when they came back, one of the sisters, the doctor, was recounting, she said, one of the people said to her that when you people come to give to us, we don't feel as if we lose our dignity. I thought, this is so beautiful. And I began to think about it. And I thought, when you feel you're giving something out of pity or out of mercy, oh, you poor thing, I have to give you, then the other person does feel a lack of dignity. It's not nice. But if, say, you feel the world, or you have that attitude and consciousness that the world is my family, and so I'm giving to my brothers and sisters in need. When you give to your family, you don't say, poor thing. You're sharing. It's your family. It's your duty. And so I thought, this is very beautiful. One thing was to give what was needed physically, but also to give that dignity, to share that love. This was actually just as precious. And so compassion, a beautiful anchor in life. Doesn't mean that you're soft. You have to say what you need to say, but it's how you say it, how you do it. That's the key. And so, yes, I hope we can contemplate on these three anchors of understanding, of acceptance, of compassion. And this really gives us a lot of inner stability and the ability to navigate our boat through life. So now I think it's time for a few minutes meditation, reflection. So I sit comfortably, take a few deep breaths, And I go on my journey within. I journey beneath the layers of my mind, going here and there. I go deep within to my true self. It's like diving deep into the ocean. The rough waves are at the top, on the surface, but in the depths of the ocean, there is silence. There is peace. I remember who I am. I am a being of peace. I am a being of love. I am a being of wisdom. These are my divine gifts from the divine source of love. I recognize my inner goodness. I feel my dignity and self-respect return to me. I am a being of great value in this life, in this world. My life has meaning and purpose. With understanding, with acceptance, with true compassion, I'm able to give in every situation. I'm able to uplift those around me. As I send those vibrations of love and compassion into our world, together we create a better world for all. A world where all can flourish.